Hello, welcome to the Bits and Pieces podcast. This is episode number 7, and as always, I am joined by George. Say hello.
Hello.
And by Gav. Say hello.
Hello.
Awesome. How are we doing, boys? Doing good?
Yeah, not bad. I successfully moved flat between now and the last time we recorded a podcast.
Nice. I hate
Managed
moving
to
house.
situate myself in a lovely little house just between a prison and a graveyard, just in time for Halloween. So
Nice job. There's been an evolution
yeah, I felt
in your
my
life.
commute wasn't quite spooky enough, so now I get to enjoy walking in the dark.
It just gets your heart rate going, so it just, it's better than a run, isn't it? Being scared half to death.
Yeah, it's like, yeah. I mean, the prison, the graveyard's fine, and it's just sort of walking past the prison. It's like it's just it's a completely pitch black, and there's just this giant. It's a very imposing looking, like prison-y looking prison. I mean,
It's not a fluffy prison.
It's not. It looks a lot like the prison that you see in the opening credits to Porridge. It's that kind of big, like out the front. There is a big prison gate. It's not like a. I don't know. I guess it's not like a Con Air type prison that you might see in America. It's like a big kind of.
Right.
I don't know if it's necessarily Victorian, but it's got like big brick walls and like a massive
Bit of a
front
gothic
entrance.
prison.
Yeah, kind of like it's all sort of brick and imposing, so not sort of
Good.
razor wire.
Right.
Very spooky.
Super spooky. And then there's the other side of my house. There's a giant cemetery.
Seasonally appropriate.
Indeed.
Quite like graveyards. I like having a wander around a graveyard. Is that morbid?
I don't know. I had a wander through the graveyard, but more just because I was trying to take a shortcut, and it turns out I couldn't take a shortcut through the graveyard, so I had to walk all the way back through it.
Shame. No, it's they're nice places to go for a walk. It's not, you don't run into people very often there, so.
No,
Nice
I mean
and
this is
quiet.
like
You read about people, little stones, just good reading material, good quiet walk. Oh dear.
it's quite a packed graveyard. This one, like it's big, and there's not much like. I don't know, like maybe if there was a bit more green space, but it's just kind of
Right.
pretty rammed full of
It's the
graves.
block of flats equivalent of a graveyard sort of thing. You just
Kind
got
of, yeah.
squished in.
Like it's basically just the path, and then anytime you're stepping off the path, you're probably
Standing
standing
on
on someone.
Anyway, video games. That's kind of the remit
Yeah.
of the podcast, not graveyards. So let's.
Well, we haven't had Gav's experiences with graveyards.
Oh, that's true. Graveyards, yay or nay, Gav? Got reaction.
No, they're alright. Alright. I'd say I'd give them like a 6 out of 10.
6 out of 10.
Just in general.
It's fair. It's fair. It's just, worth watching, but, don't rush out
Yeah,
to go
no, I
to
mean-
one.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I mean I wouldn't go there if I had to pay to get in.
That's fair enough.
Anyway, this episode of the podcast is brought to you by a podcast theme.
Graveyards.
And because graveyards,
What is your favourite video game graveyard?
I don't know.
I actually realised I have an answer for this. I think there's a graveyard in Blackwater in Red Dead Redemption that has a spooky and exciting mission in the DLC for it. It's just a very characterful graveyard.
I
And I think
remember that one.
there's a mission in the main campaign there, but I can't quite remember what you do.
Anyway, this podcast does have a theme.
It doesn't. It's not
This
graveyards,
is-
actually.
It's not graveyards.
But it could
And
be.
if we had known that we weren't going to record this until like the Halloween weekend, it might have been graveyards.
That's true, but our lack of organisation does not equal graveyards.
So instead, today you're welcome to the hardcore Gamer Time podcast.
Bits and Pieces podcast.
Yeah, I just fucked that up. Speaking of ghosts,
There it
dead
is.
things from the past,
Ghost of podcast
returning to
past.
haunt me. Exactly, it's
Our podcast.
the the Scrooge of podcasts is being visited by more podcasts.
Right.
But yeah, we've got a theme for today in a new experimental format.
Difficulty in video games.
Difficulty in games.
Theme.
How hardcore are you? how much do you love to be brutalized and murdered?
Not so much.
In games.
Oh, in games. Okay, fair enough.
In real life, again, like I'd say that's like a 5 out of 10.
Right.
Wouldn't pay for it.
That's
Wouldn't
like-
recommend it to a friend.
That's like the equivalent of like a plane film, that is, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, so you've got to have your graph of what it's equivalent of. Anyway, difficulty in games. So yeah, we're going to have a general discussion about game difficulty, but with Cuphead and other stuff coming out like that. We'll run through some of the things we've been playing that are kind of relevant maybe to that, and then Gav's going to take us to Hardcourt, which is a feature that he's come up with. That
I am a licensed judge.
Yes.
That that internet diploma is paying dividends.
That Google Doc you wrote yourself.
Google Doc, it is.
And then I've got a quiz which will cap the show off with.
Printed it out and blue tacked it to the wall.
Well, anything's official if you frame it.
It is. That's very true.
See, you've got to frame it. Blue tacked, it's not enough. Although, is it framed by the wall, do you think? Who can say?
If
you put it in a window,
I
put it in a
drew
window.
a circle around it. That counts.
That drew on your wall. That's
Aye, just a big circle. It's turned into a pentagram.
right. Moving on. Yeah, game difficulty. So we're just going to chat a bit about whether we think it's good, bad, etc. So
It's a hot topic these days, eh?
Yeah, because I guess we had Cuphead, which is incredibly hard, and infamously in the coverage leading up to its release, there was a game journalist who struggled with an early level, and was quite unfairly criticised for that.
yeah.
I mean, I think it sounds like he anticipated he'd get criticised.
Yeah.
Because I think he thought it was quite funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is
Other people did not share the humour.
No.
It seems.
Idiots did share the humour. It was quite funny. People are just sour for some reason. Like his job isn't to be good at games. His job is to analyze them and critique them. They are different things.
That is true.
But as we all know, again, I am a licensed judge. If you are not good enough, you will be sent to prison. And
yeah.
it is my understanding that he received the electric chair.
It
So
was either that or moving with George and
Exactly.
prison overflow as well.
become his neighbor. It's like, do you hear that thing about the NHS kind of Airbnb thing? It's like that, but it'll be for prisons.
No.
Where just for a brief overview, because it is fundamentally irrelevant and something I just threw in. Yeah, they're like, there's like a trial thing to like rent out spare rooms in houses for spare hospital beds.
Yeah.
It's like that, except you'll be housing disgraced game journalists who just weren't good enough at doing the video games.
Yep. I can't believe that that's actually a thing that the NHS are proposing to do. It's baffling.
It's real. It's fine. It's not open to abuse at all. Don't be ridiculous.
No. It's madness. Talking of madness in a slightly off-topic way, I read today the other day that HMRC have dropped working with a cloud service firm in order to start working with Amazon. It's like HMRC, who manage tax, are paying the people who don't pay tax to provide them with the tax cloud service.
That's quite bizarre.
Yeah.
What?
It's strange because in my loopy understanding of how public provision works, usually when a government agency farms something out to a company, they include in their projections the idea that they'll essentially get some of that money back as tax.
Yeah.
But that's not going to happen with Amazon, is it? No.
That's not happening.
Jeff Bezos is going to hold on to that cash.
Just felt that was just madness.
Clutch it.
It's like watching things from like a comedy show or something. It was literally like watching satire in real life. It was very strange.
Yeah, I would say getting your money back from Amazon is truly the Dark Souls of tax collection.
Oh, there it is.
There
There it is. I've dropped it.
You managed to
Dropped the bomb.
rope in
Yeah.
the worst take onto current affairs.
That's a roasting. They should get me on the BBC as like a
As the Dark Souls of guy, it's just your job to
the
say
Dark-
what things are the Dark Souls of a certain thing.
I was thinking like official Segway officer or something. But yeah, because one of the things people often say about Dark Souls is like, what if it had an easy mode and stuff? Would that ruin the game? Would that take it away from the experience? What do you guys think?
Well, like I think I've heard of that as people would like to, just go and look at the game world, perhaps just experience the game without necessarily having it be impossible. But as someone that I've never played in the Dark Souls games, they've just never really appealed. A, because they sound quite hard, and something about the aesthetic just doesn't appeal.
Fair enough.
It looks too gloomy,
It is quite gloomy.
It is quite gloomy, yeah.
which is yeah.
And I guess it depends on how you think of it, right? Because I think if you ask like a series loyal, like an ultra Dark Souls fan, or I don't know, like because they're not really like impossible. They have a very steep learning curve, is what I'd say. But again, once you're like into the groove and understand how to manipulate the game, I think it becomes a lot easier.
Yeah,
But it's
Yeah, sorry, go on, Gav.
oh well, yeah. I was just gonna say that like part of it's kind of the kind of austere aesthetic of the game is the difficulty, I guess.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think a lot of that is just like the marketing around it. It's like,
Yeah, it has,
it's really
like-
hard. They have
Oh, yeah.
all the adverts. You will die a lot.
And it's just it's just
When
that it has a cult status as something that is really difficult.
Yeah, it's probably more punishing than it is difficult in a way. Like it's probably just more like you're learning like a new set of skills as you play through it, and by the end you've kind of, because you've played it for so long, you've learned the game's various bits that you kind of know what you're doing a lot more. Whereas first time playing Dark Souls now, you struggle because you don't know all the nuances it has, opposed to like. But the same could be said of like if someone dropped someone who's never played an RTS into playing like StarCraft or something. Like
Yeah, I have done that
It's-
with friends that play a lot, and I just don't know what's happening.
exactly, it's a set of skills rather than it being overly difficult.
Yeah, definitely. But I guess it depends, right? Because, well, the whole thing about the easy mode idea is... Well, I guess it depends on how you look at it, because I think part of what what Demon Souls to begin with tried to do was sort of maybe like... It's weird, because they have a kind of, like, even while they're, being kind of modern and online functionality and stuff, they kind of have like almost a throwback kind of idea with them, in a way, like the way they handle, like although they have these worlds and stuff, I think the way they handle like the game structure sometimes and the like boss things is kind of, it's almost quite retro, isn't it? Because like if you think of it, sometimes it kind of reminds you of older games, like I don't know, even like Metroid, the way the levels like link into each other, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then I think maybe like it kind of sheds a number of maybe like modern trappings, and I think difficulty settings are essentially quite modern, aren't they? Like,
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know when the first difficulty setting came out, obviously, but I mean, as like a common thing, I'd say they weren't that common, at least until like maybe like PS1, PS2 kind of time.
I wouldn't
Yeah,
have said. I
sounds
can't think
about
of
right.
any that predate that. So
Well, I guess like people, like a lot of people view the difficulty as like an integral experience of the game, and so,
but
so
they have the option to just.
no, yeah,
ignore
but that's what I mean. Like it's and some people, like it's up to the player. Like some people view the difficulty as the integral experience, and they want that experience.
Yeah.
And other people, kind of want to experience the game, but not necessarily at at a high difficulty, and so prefer like an easy mode, and they'll probably get they'll have a different experience with the game. but it's no less like, yeah, the experience is different and perhaps not one that the designers intended, but ultimately it's what they'd, if they're happy with that experience, like, that's fine.
Yeah,
I think it's a lot of the people the people in then like the really hard experience. There's like a sort of elitism, like that is the only experience you should have with the game.
Well, yeah, that definitely does happen. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
I think what it comes down to though is if the developers have decided to put it in for one reason or another, then that's fine. Like there's a weird thing in like gaming culture where people feel very entitled to something because they're a fan of it, so therefore they can dictate the creative design of something. So if for example Miyazaki decided to put an easy mode into Dark Souls, people would be up in arms about it, but it's his creative license. He can do what he wants with it if he decides to.
Yeah, totally. I think there is kind of a weird, I don't know, not to go off on a tangent, but there's a weird like tit for tat there when people are like yeah, like, obviously if someone, for instance, if like a games journalist suggests, maybe they should put an easy mode into the game. I mean, I don't really have an opinion on it. I kind of think, but anyway,
it's kind of a whatever. Topic. It's like it doesn't really matter sort of thing.
Yeah, people get kind of upset about it. The idea, like, oh, you shouldn't dictate to them what they want, but then at the same time, people are very happy to constantly whinge and moan about anything in a beloved game series they like that they want changed.
Yeah.
Like, anyway, yeah, it's weird, but I don't know. I think while there is like definitely there's an accessibility argument totally. I think there is something to be said for a game that is designed kind of... Well, I mean, because games do this both ways, right? Because there's games that are just not challenging by design, and they don't have, like, a hard mode. And then there's games that are difficult by design and don't have an easy mode. I think although there's definitely an accessibility argument, I don't disagree with that. There's something to be said for a game being designed as a kind of integral experience. Like, because once you start to introduce things like different difficulties, there's a whole bunch of, like, it's a can of worms, really, isn't it?
Yeah, there's balancing and stuff that has to go into it, and
well, it's like I think I always like sometimes you see it in games where it's like this, like you'll see the difficulty labels will say, this is the difficulty.
Yeah, very clearly.
Like the game is ideally played at, and this for the sort of the standard experience, and I think
yeah, proper labeling's part of it, but
and I think it's I think it's nice when that's put in. It's just like we think our vision of the game is best like this. If you want it to be harder, if you want it to be easier, that's fine.
Yeah, but I can totally, at the same time, I get that, and that's good. And I do really like it when they clearly label what they're intended for the different difficulties. Like, 'cause I remember, when I was playing Ruiner the other day, obviously there's the easy one, which is just like, you don't really care about the gameplay, and then normal, which is like, there's a bit of a challenge, and hard says, developers recommended difficulty. I remember Halo was always the same like that. I think that in the menus they were really clear about what the difficulties were intended to do.
Yeah.
And if I remember right, Bungie's recommended was always heroic. But at the same time, I think there is almost like a degree of unevenness that can come into it just from...
Was heroic the hardest one, or was that legendary?
Legendary was the hardest,
yeah.
But I remember in the menus it usually said, like, Bungie recommends playing on heroic, because I think that was the kind of way they balanced the game. And you could kind of feel that, I guess. I always think it's weird that people don't balance the game around the normal setting, because that's what most people are going to pick. Yeah. But
I think game difficulty feels like it is becoming more accessible, because, like we sort of mentioned earlier, that it feels like a game, like being able to adjust the game's difficulty is a semi-recent thing. Kind of emerging with PS1, but now, like a lot of games now, you can adjust the difficulty like on the fly. Because I guess before it'd be like a lot of sliders and stuff. At the very start of the game, before you've even played the game, it's like choose a difficulty. It's like I don't know.
Yeah, I guess
what any of these actually feel like, and so you're often having to make the decision about how difficult you want this game to be, based on nothing. And so often the only thing that you have is that kind of it's that like, oh, I've got to prove myself. It's like, because like when you like been playing the new Wolfenstein recently, and the first one had this as well. But when you're choosing the difficulty, like it like changes the sort of the face of the character, and when you put it all the way down to the easiest one, it's like him in like a sort of baby outfit, which is slightly, it's kind of like, it's a bit mocking. And then when you put it all the way up, it's like, oh yeah, you're hardcore, you can do it. And so you kind of like, when the only time you choose difficulty is right at the start of the game, often that's like the main influence isn't what does the game feel best as, because you haven't played it. It's just, oh, am I tough enough to play the hardest difficulty where you like prove yourself? You're kind of guessing.
That is true, yeah. Especially with games that make you commit from the get-go. For things that are like 9 odd plus hours campaigns or further with some things. That is a bit presumptuous that you would kind of know what would be right for you based on a very limited amount of information.
Yeah, and like games that like games do sometimes suggest it'd be like, oh, if you've played perhaps the previous game in the series, then this is a good one for you. Or like if you're really great at other games, then this is the right difficulty for you. Like interestingly, Wolfenstein 2 now has 2 medium difficulties.
That's interesting.
How does that work?
So it's like medium something. Well, I can't remember. There's like Can I Play Daddy, which is the baby one. And like they're all, but then there's like it has the name and it has the little description. It's like there's one which is like medium difficulty for casual gamers, and then it's like medium difficulty for experienced gamers.
What's the actual difference then?
I don't know.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Reminds me of Metal Gear, where you had like different difficulty settings for like different regions, which was weird. But yeah, go on.
I decided to set it to hard for some reason. It's like, well, I'd like a challenge.
Sorry, go on.
Because I think when I played the first one, I set it to like medium the first round, and then went back trying to play it through hard. But I think this time around I wanted to play it through on hard, so that it feels that like when you go back and replay it, I can just set it to the easiest, just for that really satisfying kind of like power trip. Where it's almost like gotta eat my main course, so later on I can go back and have delicious pudding.
Yeah, I think the question always is though, like when you're picking a difficulty setting or something, like I suppose there's a degree where it's almost like you're trying to understand what, because some people have like different expectations of what they want out of difficulty settings, right? So some people will pick the one that gives them a challenge, and some people's vision of how to play a game is basically, they don't. I mean, not maybe they don't. I'm not saying maybe they don't want to be challenged at all, but they don't want to hit sticking points or anything. If you know what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, like it's like you don't want to get stuck.
But I mean, it kind of comes down to like, I think maybe the kind of root of different types of game. Maybe like because I mean, and it is kind of part of video games that there's an expectation when you're playing one that you'll come out at the end better than you went in, and like the question is, how much does a game like make you improve? I mean, there's a degree where it comes down to fairness in the game, obviously. Like, I've never really cared for games with ridiculous difficulty jumps or anything, but I don't know what I'm trying to express here. Just like.
I think I get you with the fairness thing, like where it's like it gets to the point where, so like Civ, the AI, as they get like the difficulties ramp up, like the AI just cheats. Like it starts with massive tech advantages and can just cheat because it's not necessarily smart enough.
Yeah, that tends to be the case in strategy games.
Which like in difficulty like that feel kind of unfair. So yeah, it's interesting that when games do stuff to make games feel fair, like think it's in Half-Life 2. No matter, like, only 2 enemies will ever be shooting at you at once.
Yeah.
So, like, even though there's loads on the screen, it'll have, like, 2 shooting, and then it will just tell the rest to, like, run and take cover.
Really? I didn't know that. That's really interesting.
It's pretty clever.
Yeah, so it's like, so it just doesn't feel ridiculous.
Right. Ah.
Yeah, but I think I might have formulated this a bit better in my stupid idiot brain now. But like, I guess it's kind of been with the kind of diversification of what games do over time. And well, obviously, I mean, things like adventure games have existed for a long time. Although, to be honest, I'd have a whinge about how difficult adventure games are, mostly just because their difficulty is always unfair. You know, a bit like, you know, combine the pair of wet socks with the pineapple to make a brick to throw through a window or something fucking stupid like that. Anyway,
Classic.
but like to what degree would you guys say that, like, do you guys expect difficulty when you go into a game? Do you expect that the game will, like, maybe challenge you to a degree where you feel like at what point does, I think it's mostly a question of when frustration sets in, and like, because
less so like I guess with recent games, because like a lot of my memories of being stuck in games come from like just like playing games when I was quite young.
Yeah, same.
And like I have like a couple of like strong memories of being really stuck at specific points, and often it was just due to like navigational stuff or like a tough boss usually. So like, I'm like, I remember lots of kids being like, I don't know where to go, and there's something very and like, and that's really frustrating because it doesn't feel like it's necessarily the game. Like it feels like a sort of slightly unfair thing. So it's just like, it's not like you're being beaten by anything. It's just like, I swear I've been everywhere.
Yeah, you feel like there's a lack of signposting, or
like it's just
I know that feeling.
It doesn't. It's not like oh man, I can't beat this boss. It's just, it's frustrating because it's not a sort of satisfying difficulty almost.
Yeah,
like when you find the way to go, it's not like, oh man, I overcame that challenge. It's just, oh right, that's where I was meant to go.
Yeah. There's definitely like I think in just about, there's maybe like an axis that can be drawn between that kind of, I think there's like a very specific feeling, that kind of memory of being like, I don't know, a kid like 10 years old and just like wandering around in a PS2 game. Like, just, it's not even like an explorable level. You're not finding anything interesting. You're just faffing around in a relatively flat and uninteresting 3D level.
Yeah,
trying to find the way out.
Like I had it with Jedi Knight, Jedi Outcast.
Oh, I remember that game. Yeah,
like
that game.
There's one, like there's a couple of points where it's just like I don't know where I'm meant to go. There's one like the first level. It took a long time, and there's just another point where you're expected to, in order to progress through the level, there's like this really tiny sort of air vent grate, like
man.
I think either like above or at the back of like a lift, kind of out of the way, and it's destructible and you just destroy it and then kind of jump through it. But there's nothing really like signposting that should be destroyed, or at least back then, like it just didn't. Because I played it
didn't feel like it.
Yeah, like I think when
I distinctly remember being in a similar situation with the first Zone of the Enders game, where about after the first sort of hour or so in, the game's not very long in the first place, but there's just a point where you're like, where am I supposed to go now? So you just sort of end up whizzing around these levels you've already been to, going, am I supposed to come back to somewhere? Wasn't really clear as to where I was meant to go. And then I remember replaying it as an adult and going, well, obviously you go here. And that's like just years of build-up of like how games work.
Yeah,
totally. Like there's a degree where you just kind of become more in tune with what it expects of you.
Yeah, so you go, oh well, obviously you just do that because that's how you would go, where you would go next. It's the logical thing to do. Yeah. Which I think is interesting when you think of where people. There's been a conversation quite often about games getting easier, which, if you think about it, people who often complain about that are the people who play a hell of a lot of games. So likely it's not that games are getting easier, it's just that they're becoming better at games. Because I think if you sat down a person who'd never played a game before, which is what normal difficulty is generally aimed at, is someone who doesn't really play games very often, they would probably find that to be the optimum setting. Whereas someone who's played like 1,000 games, sit them down in normal mode, they're probably going to find that quite easy because they know not every system in a game can be a new system, so they're going to kind of understand and know what they're supposed to be doing a lot more, and where they're supposed to go, how enemies are going to move, like even simple things like introducing like in a shooter where the best place to hit an enemy is or something. Like they're going to know immediately, they're going to click with it and know exactly what they need to do. Whereas someone who doesn't do that, referring back to like the RTS example before, like they're not going to know how to optimize. They're not going to know that they can hold down control and then line up loads of commands or something, and that they're not going to know about that sort of stuff. So
Shift.
It feels like a redundant. Is it Shift? I don't know. Whatever it is.
I feel like I should correct you because it's always Shift.
Is it? Oh freaking no.
Yeah, like I know where you're coming from there. There's definitely like a degree where you just start to know more about games as you get older. I think there's like it's like a very resonant kind of nostalgic feeling of being like completely lost. I think it's one of the reasons, like as kids, that games seemed so magic.
Yeah,
is that we couldn't read the really obvious signs that tell us where to go, and so they felt really open and like expansive, and the places that you were in a game felt, really unique. Whereas now, once you're older, once you've played a ton of games, like they just, like, you know what I mean, like the kind of environment you're in a game just kind of reduces to being like a series of signs.
Yeah,
like
I think
basically
like it's
pointing you where to go.
It's perhaps not the perfect analogy, but like if you see like a sleight of hand magic trick, it's just complete magic, and then if you are told how it's done and rewatch it, like it's still really impressive.
Yeah,
but
it's from a different perspective, isn't it?
Yeah, you've lost a little bit because you don't know roughly what's happening, and like a little bit of magic is lost. So it's not quite that, but something close, I think.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. Once you take a peek behind the curtain, you can't unsee it almost. So you kind of you always kind of have an expectation as to what's going to happen. You jump to conclusions and you can guess what the game's going to pull out and things. It's like how I've been playing Transformers Devastation recently, which is really, really good. But if you've ever played like a Devil May Cry or Bayonetta game, then you know how to dodge enemies. The game, especially on normal difficulty, is exceptionally easy because once you have that timing down and you know how to dodge stuff, the game slows down and then you can just beat everything up and you just very rarely take hits. Whereas, if that was my first of that genre to play, learning how to do counters and dodge correctly would be like a massive part of learning about how to play that game. Whereas, because I hadn't, it just wasn't. Doesn't make the game any less bad. It's a really, really good game still.
Yeah, it's like there's like I don't know. There's like there's what am I trying to say here? There's like a difference between trying to understand like parsing fresh like rules and then like actual mechanical adaptation to becoming more proficient at those rules.
Yeah.
Like I feel like, the way something like Dark Souls works, people come into it with like expectations about what like a fantasy RPG is, if you know what I mean. And then those expectations eventually turn out to be wrong because it's a different type of game. Like so you might think, you come in, and I feel like the game sometimes does this to you a bit, where you go again, you start like Undead Asylum, you kill some really basic enemies, and you're like, all right, so it's real time, I can block, I can do this, I can do that, and then like the game explains to you in the form of a big fat demon with a massive hammer that it's got a different set of rules, and so like. I think it's interesting because I think one of the things that I find really enjoyable about the Souls games is is that period of like misunderstanding where the game forces you to take a fresh perspective.
Dark Souls is quite good at that. It almost does do, like you said, George, like a sleight of hand, but it does it a different way almost every time. So you might learn how it works in one sense, but it just does it a completely different way, and you have no idea what's happening again. That's kind of what each boss ends up sort of being. They're all crafted exceptionally well, and they all have their own distinct thing that you have to relearn almost how to play every time you go up against one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't mean so much like when you learn the trick. It's
I think it's a sign of a good boss fight, to be honest, is that it makes you reassess how things work and how introduces new mechanics or a new way of thinking that you hadn't done before, and it challenges you, which I think is good boss design.
Definitely.
I think there's one like boss fight that kind of stands out for me, but mainly because I remember like I'm certain I dreamed how to beat the boss. Well, I don't necessarily count as a boss fight. It's like a final room that was really hard in. It was Medal of Honor. I can't remember which one, but it was on Game Boy Advance. So.
Wow. Game Boy Advance.
Yeah, it was a Medal of Honor on the Game Boy Advance. And it was sort of top down. I mean, not quite twin stick shooter, just kind of, you had a D-pad, an A and a B, an A and a B button, and an R button. So pretty basic, but sort of. There were definitely hard parts to it, but yeah, we got to the final room, and remember being stuck on it for absolutely ages. And I fell asleep playing it, and I was meant to be in bed, probably had school the next day, but had my Game Boy hidden under my pillow. I'd been playing it and fallen asleep, and had a dream in which I beat the level. And basically I'm certain I basically beat the level in my dream, woke up, and then just did what I did in my dream. It just worked perfectly.
That's interesting.
And I was like,
appeared to you in a vision.
Yeah, like it was wonderful.
But sometimes you just sort of need that that break sometimes when you're playing something that's particularly hard.
That's true.
To almost sort of absorb what you need to do. You just always see that sleep or that short break from doing it, and then you can go back in fresh.
Yeah,
I've always found, especially playing Souls games, once you start dying, you just continue to die more and more because you get more and more frustrated, and that just makes you worse at the game. So there's just a point where you're just like, nope, stop. I'm just doing badly now. And I think there's quite a few games like that where you just have that tilt where you just end up hitting rock bottom.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how games approach that as a mechanic. Like the idea of dealing with player frustration, right? So you have you have a game like Dark Souls, and I think eventually you come to terms with dying a lot. Yeah. And you just you use it almost as a mechanic to progress. Like you think, oh, there's this new corridor down here that I can explore, and you just think to yourself, well, I'm probably going to die doing it.
Yeah.
But I'll know more about that part of the level.
Yeah.
And then you have games like I said, I was playing Ruiner, and part of it is it's almost like Hotline Miami-ish in a way, the way you restart, because it's just instantaneous. Just you go in and you get, let's just say you get blasted, instantly killed, and you just press and you're there again, you're starting again. It's just you're I feel like that there's different approaches, and how that's managed, I think, is key as well to I think the perception of how hard your game is.
Yeah, well, it's also so much when you have a difficult game, the loop of failure in Hotline Miami is almost addictive, because you're so instantly reset, and the levels are short-ish.
Yeah.
Whereas it can it's that when something's really difficult and there's just a really long time between checkpoints, it's so much easier to get frustrated because the stakes are higher, you lose, and suddenly you've got to do perhaps the easy part all over again, and it's so tedious.
Yeah, and I feel it always comes down to how navigable it feels to have to redo that bit, Because if you, let's just say you die, and then let's just say you can leverage the knowledge you had before you died again. Like, the enemy's going to be here, another one's going to be here. And it kind of feels good sometimes, if they work it well, to, like, reuse stuff you've already done. Then sometimes you have other games where enemy behaviors aren't predictable. Like, you go into a room that you died at last time, and you find that all the enemy spawns are different. And, like, rather than getting shot at by some guy up on a ledge, someone throws a grenade at you or something dumb like that.
Yeah.
Like, it can be weird in that way.
Yeah, I've been playing Echo recently, which just came out on PC and PS4, I think, and it does a really interesting thing with the enemy design, because all the enemies are basically just you, and everything that you do they learn from. So it's got a really interesting way of dealing with difficulty almost, because the game. Well, maybe we sort of shape where the game is first. So you're going into sort of to a random planet to try and find a thing, to try and bring someone back to life. And as you go through the game world, these echoes of yourself start popping up, and basically want to kill you. The game ends up being sort of like a puzzle stealth game, and I call it a puzzle game because every sort of, I think it's every 5 minutes, but probably less than that, the lights go off, and that sort of resets all the actions that every enemy knows. So, for example, if before the lights off, you've run through some water, opened some doors, shot some enemies, then when the lights go off and turn back on again, then all the enemies will be able to run through water, open doors, and shoot you. Whereas if you don't do any of those things, and you remain completely hidden, and don't go in, then or say you've crouched the entire time, you remain hidden, then all the enemies will start crouching behind things as well. So it does a really good job of almost setting the difficulty being whatever it was you did before. So you can easily make it harder for yourself by running around, using all the doors, all the lifts, jumping off things, giving them this like massive catalogue of things they can do. And that will make it more challenging for you when the lights turn back on again.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
I think
because enemies always constantly respawn, like if you kill an enemy when the lights are on, when the lights go back off and turn back on again, they'll have respawned in that same position. It has this really nice sort of like, it's always pushing you to go and do as much as you can. So it's like, it makes you choose between rushing and jumping off a balcony, or maybe being a bit slower and going around the side, and not doing that, so not give them access to that ability. It does a really interesting thing with how it almost makes you create your own difficult scenarios. Because when you've shot something, you know that is not going to end well for you unless you can survive the next 5 minutes without having been seen. Otherwise, everything is going to be shooting at you.
That sounds really interesting, like an interesting mix between that kind of, mechanical challenge and kind of puzzle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, you have...
Sorry,
I don't know. You have games like obviously when we were saying Hotline Miami, like it's basically kind of like a puzzle game in a way.
Yeah.
Because like you kind of have to figure out, like, I need to do this in this order, almost like you're doing a puzzle. But there's like an element of mechanical skill, and it seems interesting that Echo does something kind of like that, except rather than the puzzle being something you execute, it's something you set up.
Yeah.
Maybe?
It's really interesting because when the lights are off for about sort of 30 seconds or a minute or something, so you're like, right, go and do as much stuff that you wouldn't be able to do with the lights are on in the dark as quickly as possible, and then kind of go back to being like hiding a lot more. It's really, really interesting because most of the things you're doing is kind of getting to the edge of an area, or you're collecting power cells to start up a lift or a generator or something like that, or finding something and getting out again. So there's no benefit to you from like maybe like downing every enemy like you would in a lot of stealth games like Splinter Cell or Metal Gear Solid, where like taking out every enemy is a benefit to you. In this, it's just not, because they're going to come back to life in the next 5 minutes anyway. What you want to do is be in a better position than you were 5 minutes ago, rather than like I can't remember where I was going with that now, but yeah, you want to be like, you want to have progressed yourself rather than the things around you. It does a really interesting thing with difficulty. I've had to put it on easy because I'm bad at the game, and even then, it's still quite hard. Like if you get seen.
I mean, I find myself choosing to play games on like easy or not necessarily easy, but like a mode where I'm like, I don't think this will necessarily be a challenge. Just more and more, because I don't necessarily like.
It depends what you want from the game, doesn't it?
Yeah, what's the thing? Like, I feel like I'm, like, I also feel like I'm sort of pressed for time when it comes to playing games. It's like you come home in the evening. I don't have a huge amount of time to play games. It's like I don't necessarily want to be stuck on one bit for ages.
Yeah.
And so often it's just like I kind of just want to relax. And so often I'll choose to play something where I'm like, I don't think this will be a huge challenge. And so often I rarely ever choose to play something really hard.
I understand that kind of impulse. I get I think it kind of depends, doesn't it? Because I feel like there's almost different, especially these days more and more, I think we see the difference between maybe people that I don't know, because some people, for instance, play a lot of games. Like some people, if you know what I mean, some people spend a lot of time playing games, and some people play a lot of games. You know what I mean? Some people will put like hundreds and hundreds of hours into something. Like for instance, let's just say, obviously you come back from work or uni or whatever, and you think like, I want to spend some time playing a game, kind of relax. And then obviously some people will consider it depends. Obviously, there's like degrees of it, but whether you spend, let's just say, a lot of time with one game or play a lot of different ones. I guess that's part of what I'm trying to say in a kind of roundabout way. You know what I mean? Because some people will want to spend a lot of time with the one game to get a sense of value out of it. There's like a cut off, I suppose, there, and I think challenge comes into that.
It does. Like, I think I've said in the podcast before, but I'm playing through Pillars of Eternity, but on like the really easy mode because the game's massive, and I don't want to spend hours just like trogging through not very interesting combat encounters. I'm there want to play it for the story in it rather than the all of the battle sequences. Whereas like I played through The Witcher 3 on Deathmatch for like 120 hours or something because I felt it added something to the game. So then there's that difference between whether the actual difficulty is adding to the artistic design of the game or if it's taking something away for you. Like I found Witcher 3 a much better game when I replayed it on Deathmatch than I did the first time I played it. And that's not to say it's a bad game on normal, but it almost became a different game when I played it through the second time. Yeah,
because it's something we've talked about on the podcast before, isn't it? Because it's got a lot of design that really only comes into its own once you play it on a really high difficulty.
Yeah, because there are almost parts of it that you just wouldn't touch on a normal mode.
Yeah, like I remember food's one of it, isn't it?
Yeah,
like,
especially early on.
There's no use for it, basically.
No, especially early on, like having no way to recover health other than potions and food becomes like a massive deal. And having like, especially on normal mode, you'll use maybe like, there's probably about 100 potions and you probably use about 4 normally on like regular mode. But on on Deathmatch, you kind of end up using most things because they all have very situational use depending on like the monster or whatever's happening at the moment where you need to like swim underwater a lot or something. I don't know, but you just end up not really needing them on normal. You kind of just breeze through a bit more, and it does end up happening a bit more towards the end of Deathmatch, but especially like the first sort of 3/4 of it end up being like it properly changes how the game works.
Yeah, because I think like almost there's a degree where like where does I keep using the same phrases because I can't, I just need to fill time while my brain works because I'm tired, but like at what point does difficulty become almost part of the the role play? Because I think that's part of it in Dark Souls, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like until it becomes again mechanically orientated, but there's part of it in Dark Souls, and it's definitely part of it in The Witcher, isn't it? Like the idea that, because to be honest, sometimes on the lower difficulties in The Witcher 3, right? So you're supposed to be a Witcher, and you spend a lot of time dealing with really really dangerous creatures, and you. Like part of it on harder difficulties is you have to prepare stuff, potions, what's the name for the things, elixirs or something?
Yeah, like oils, know what the enemy's weak to and spells and stuff, and like how it acts. Whereas and on
the lower difficulties you just kind of go in there with your sword and just whack it till it dies.
Just sort of charge in. It's yeah, it's completely.
So I think that's an interesting thing. Like that varies from obviously type of game.
Definitely.
Because, like, obviously, role-playing games maybe more than others, and then sometimes less than others, like in cases of, like, Pillars of Eternity, where it doesn't add that much to the experience.
No. The experience of Pillars is about absorbing the narrative of the world. Because you embody a sort of, like nameless, speechless character, and you want to learn more about the characters that you're with. It's a bit more like Dragon Age in that way. Like, there's no, I wouldn't say it would be. I think Dragon Age has a better, especially Origins has a better combat system, battle system. But the in general though, for like 2 and 3, like you're not that fussed about the battles. They don't, having them be challenging just makes them last longer.
Yeah,
that's the only thing it does. It doesn't change how you approach the game in any other way, apart from maybe you'll have someone who does more healing magic and have more potions. But that doesn't change your overall experience or your overall perceptive of it. It doesn't add anything of real value like it does in Dark Souls and The Witcher 3. Because especially in Dark Souls, having it be difficult just ties into that sort of like nihilistic narrative that runs through a lot of Dark Souls and Bloodborne. Like that sort of horror and the hardships of the world and it being really like brutal.
Yeah, and the kind of the bleakness, the idea that you're the chosen undead or whatever, whatever variety, the flavor in the particular game, and the world is very hostile to you.
Yeah,
and you're supposed to find like wee moments of solace in the bonfires and things. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, because I could understand that the game would feel different if it was not, if you just never died in it once. And then whenever you walked into an enemy, you sort of just poke them and they fell over. It would be a power fantasy rather than what it actually is. Which is
and then like
different.
when I was playing Ruiner, I felt that the difficulty came into it as well, mostly just because of the way it worked. Like you tended to be up against odds that seem ridiculous, so it makes sense for you to find it hard. Like it's not really supposed to be like a power trip, and then like the whole experience is this very kind of like dark red and black tinted sort of cyberpunk thing.
Yeah.
With very like kind of loud oppressive music, that kind of stuff. And I think they came into that as well. Anyway.
Cool.
So overall, games hard or not hard?
Games sometimes hard.
I mean,
sometimes not
shit.
hard.
That sounds like the Dark Souls of decisions.
That games are games. That's my
Games
final answer.
Have variable difficulty. That is a choice that can only be made by the player.
Yeah.
Or the developer.
Play games how
Really
you
up to
feel
them.
like. Who cares what someone else internet says? Just play them how
I
you want
think
to play
there's
them.
at this
Literally
point
doesn't affect us.
there are enough games
Yeah.
that you can play the games you want to play. There you go.
Yeah.
That's the verdict.
Yeah. Or just
and,
if someone says, "Have you played it on that?" Just lie. If it matters to you, that
Just
much,
lie. Yeah,
lie.
just say.
No one really cares. They're games.
Yeah, mate. Did a Dark Souls Soul Level 1 run?
Yeah,
Beat it
I
with,
played Pokemon on the mode where
beat it
you
with a
just
Dark.
where if one of them dies, then you set them free. Yeah, I did that.
I actually,
What was that, the Nuzlocke one?
I actually got really stuck on Pokemon the first level. I was playing Leaf Green on an emulator on my phone. For the first time. When I was about 17. Turns out so you have to leave the village in
Is
order
this
to
more
trigger.
you just getting lost rather than you
No,
not being
because
playing?
Professor Oak is like, don't go anywhere. Come meet me in the lab.
Yeah.
So I didn't go anywhere and just spent a really long time walking around the lab and the village, and then went back to the lab. I was like, we're not here. I don't understand what's gone wrong, and just gave up. And so sometime later, I was saying like, what I was talking to someone about it. I was like, well, what are you meant to do? I don't understand. And they're like, you're just meant to leave the village. I was like, what? But I was specifically told to meet him in the lab and to not leave.
Too
He
obedient,
wasn't there.
That's it. You're too good at doing what you're told. You should
Yeah.
rebel more. I thought you were going to say you got stuck on like the first gym or something. I was like,
Nope.
you just
You're not got stuck in the
beat,
town.
beat more Pokemon to do that. Like,
I
it's hard to get stuck
didn't
on
even
them.
have my Pokedex or a Pokemon or
I like the idea that would happen to someone like their first time playing Pokemon. Just like, is this Pokemon? It's shite.
yeah. I was like, what is?
Just wandering about in a town.
Yeah, it was the first one I played. I was like, what is going on? I don't understand. I just want my Pokemon. Yeah.
Oh dear. Anyway, Gav, you're going to try us in hard court now.
Yeah,
Right.
I've got my
Judge Gavin.
court clothes on.
Right, I have a wig. I've got a judge's wig. It's huge.
I thought you meant just
Imagine the biggest one you've ever seen.
Okay.
I don't have a gavel because as fun that would be a good pun because that's my name as well.
It is.
Gavin's Gavel.
You
Anyway,
just got a mallet instead.
yeah, I've got a massive mallet, like a
Gavel and
huge one,
Oh
like
dear. Yeah, penis
like a
jokes.
Kirby-sized mallet is what I have.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, you made it into a penis joke there. Definitely.
I,
I don't know. It just did. Anyway,
That's good.
Continue.
that's good. Anyway, right. Court is now in session. Everyone, take your seats.
Okie dokie.
I don't have a bailiff
Am I?
because
Yeah.
the court can't afford it. These are tough, difficult times.
I've got some bay
Anyway.
leaves in the kitchen. Which,
Bay
you
leaf.
know, it's
Right, I'll have less sass from the bench. Thank you. Okay, you, Nevi and George, face charges having been handed down from the court of the internet. They have
objection.
accused, overruled. They have accused you of being casuals. Can you believe it? You might want to sue them for slander. I don't know.
okay.
Anyway, because the legal system of the internet is very unfair, there's no jurisprudence, none of that good stuff.
Rubbish.
Only one can survive in this court. That's how the law works. And
I thought I felt my scar burning.
you must prove to me, the judge, the master of the hard court, that you are good enough at games to survive, or you will be thrown into George's basement with the guy that was bad at Cuphead.
Right.
Court is now in session. I will hear testimony from George first. What is your greatest gaming accomplishment? What's the hardest thing you've ever done in a game?
I got a not terrible time on the Titanfall 2 training level.
Ooh.
I currently opening Steam to look at my rarest achievements.
What is the most difficult
I
game you've ever
would
completed?
Like the most difficult game I've ever completed.
That counts as an achievement.
Don't know. What counts as a difficult game?
I don't know.
I don't play many like traditionally difficult games.
You ever?
Call of Duty 4 on the hardest difficulty was quite challenging.
Yeah, it's pretty difficult.
I got through.
I'd say.
I can't remember if I ever finished it, but most of Halo 3 on Legendary.
Right, so we've got Call of Duty 4, got Halo 3. This is a very 2007 era
Yeah, you're saying it's past its prime. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying I'm past that prime.
It's done for. These decade-old accomplishments.
No, Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker had some pretty challenging boss fights. And
take your word
and
for
it. It was on the PSP, so you probably had to use.
And
the
it was on the PSP. I mean,
which is the hardest console, I think.
Yeah, like
it's a very hardcore console, I would say.
And like I played a bit of Monster Hunter, but I was always terrible just because the control system was so obnoxious. And like I had friends that were like, "Oh yeah, you just use the claw." I'm like, "What is the claw?" "Oh yeah, you just like curl your finger over the front of the thing and make like a weird claw." I'm like, "No."
Yeah, unfortunately,
I have no idea why you would complain.
That is uncomfortable and awful to control.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
It's not exactly the best.
So I mean, I wasn't necessarily good at Monster Hunter, but I did endure playing quite a few hours of it because friends played it, and that was difficult.
All right. I mean, I'd say that Call of Duty 4 is a pretty difficult game. I did not complete it on Veteran.
Well, I mean, I completed the game on the hardest difficulty apart from
the last
Mile
one.
High Club.
The last one,
which
was
I completed on every difficulty, but
if you had completed it, I think you would have been a shoo-in for an innocent verdict. But because if I remember right, what is it like you have like a 20-second timer, don't you?
I think it's 30
to run
seconds.
through the whole plane. You have to run through the entire plane, kill everyone, and reach the end. And you die like in like 2 hits, and everyone's throwing grenades and has P90s and just pop up from behind airplane stalls and stuff. Yeah. Horrifying. It's a horrifying game.
You have what? Yeah, you have 60 seconds to beat it on.
60 seconds, okay. So, right, we've heard. If you come up with any, the court will accept additional evidence. Obviously, in the interest of a fair legal hearing, if anyone comes up with anything else. So, Nevi, what say you? What are your
I've had a few minutes to think, and I remembered that I once had quite a good ranking on Race to Sun. I was once ranked 284 on Race to Sun, and I even have photographic evidence of it as well.
284,
which is pretty good. I mean, that was pretty good. I was definitely proud enough to post it on Twitter, which that must be something.
You made it into the top 300.
I did. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
How many people play this game?
280. I like 285.
I mean, still.
No, it's not bad. It's not bad.
Screenshots are inadmissible in court, so I'm going to have to reject that evidence.
We'll have to get the expert in to take a look at the pixels
to see if it's been tampered.
To see if it's been tampered with.
It was shared directly from my PS4. I think you can change it on there.
All right. That's one.
That's one. That's probably best I've got, to be honest. I finished The Witcher 3 on Death March. That's
pretty. I have to admit, that's pretty good. That's a feat of endurance.
Let's see. Back in the old PS2 days, finished Devil May Cry 3 on every difficulty. I used to be able to play Guitar Hero on Expert, and
ooh,
yeah.
If I remember right, there's some difficulty involved in Devil May Cry. It's not an easy game,
especially not in Heaven and Hell and Dante Must Die mode. Those are both very tricky.
Oh, yeah, those are hellish.
Yeah.
One
of those is the one where everything dies in one hit, but you also just die in one hit. So it's pretty tricky. Because even on the hardest one, you still get 2 or 3 before you out. But yeah, you used to be able to play Guitar Hero and Rock Band guitar only, but on Expert, which used to be good. That's probably about it.
I could not get booed off the stage on medium.
That's something, I guess.
Yeah, but George, at the same time, we've played Day of Infamy together, where I just sort of wander around aimlessly and get shot in the head. So, yeah, it swings around about there, I think. Yeah. God, I'm so
Aye.
bad at games like that. I still have. I watched back a video we had of it recently because I was trying to like think we could do some sort of feature on it. I was like, oh my god, no, I'm just so bad at that game that it's not. It'd be worse than the Cuphead thing. I mean, just like I have no idea where they are, where I'm being shot at, or really what we're doing.
I mean, we were playing Day of Infamy, and there were definitely times where it's like we'd be halfway through a game and be like, "Hang on, I haven't seen you for a while. Where are you?" And then we'd realise we'd been on opposite teams.
That's true. Yeah, they're going to keep doing that.
You were never friends. There you go.
Oh, still
That's a tragedy for the ages, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we have a few different accomplishments here.
Yeah.
We've got high difficulty gameplay on Halo 3, Call of Duty 4, The Witcher.
Oh, I on Final Fantasy X, I beat all the Dark Aeons and Penance, which is pretty tricky. I mean,
I have no idea what that means.
It's like all the end game shit. I mean, it's not really hard. It's more just having a lot of time.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I rarely put things on a high difficulty, and am not much of a completionist, so I don't like my chances.
Very rarely am. That's true.
Ooh.
I have got all the trophies on the Walking Dead games. I mean, you just get them all for just playing them, but still, I have them all.
That's something you got.
I didn't finish the first Walking Dead game.
You see, I win because the Walking Dead game, the first one, is amazing.
However, I would like to bring to light that in bringing in a surprise piece of evidence, I have
evidence.
My average game completion rate on Steam is 21%, while Nevi's is only 20%.
Yeah.
Oh, by God.
However, I think I beat you on the PS4 account, so.
Oh man.
I mean, you don't have one, so.
Oh well. There's
That's an automatic win.
There's a tit for tat of evidence there.
Yeah. God, there's so many games in my Steam library that I played for about half an hour and never touched again.
I mean, I feel like the court did not give you guys adequate time to prepare maybe for this, but at the same time, like I said, the court doesn't care much about anything. No one pays me to be in the court, so it's not really that good, is it? But what will the judgment be? What will the judgment be?
Just find out next time on me. Cliffhanger.
I feel like I'll find out next time after we go to the appeals stage. after the judge is accused of impropriety. Next time the judge is arrested.
What else have I done?
I think I'm afraid. Right, I'm sorry, George. Your punishment is to live in your own flat. You've been sent to prison, which is your own house, because I believe that The Witcher 3 is a veritable accomplishment.
Way. Yes. I can't believe
I'm sorry,
I won.
George.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for your punishment.
I mean, I've been struggling to complete The Witcher 2 on normal. So.
You have to live with staying in your own house now. So
sucks to be you.
Exactly, sucks to be you.
You have to stay where you are currently abiding.
Right, court is over. Now.
Is that your...
Yay!
That's court done. This is the bit in Phoenix Wright where the music starts playing and everyone's happy.
Well, I'm going to appeal and take this.
Oh no!
Take this to higher court.
The Supreme Court.
Yep.
The Supreme Court at speedruns.com, where they gauge how good you are.
I've never tried to speedrun a game, I must admit.
No, I've tried it half-assedly and then realised I'm garbage and given up. So, onwards and upwards.
Yeah, over a quiz. Let's
a quiz
about everybody's favourite really hard game, series, Mega Man.
Mega Man.
Mega Man.
He's the best man
It is
at your wedding.
gun hand and
He's a big man.
I don't think I've ever
He's
played
not.
more than about
he's
15
he's
minutes
child
of
size,
Mega
isn't
Man.
he? He's a child.
Yeah.
No, he's not.
Not even a man.
No,
he's
I'm thinking.
a
I'm
robot.
thinking of.
That TV
Is it-
series thing?
Is it Robo Boy?
Astro Boy.
Astro Boy. Very similar to Mega Man. I feel like his hairstyle kind of looks like Mega Man's helmet, and they both have weapony limbs. But
That's George
Nice.
getting
Yeah.
men and boys confused.
yeah, to go from boys to men.
No, okay.
There you go.
Right.
There you go.
Astro Boys to Mega Man.
Right, so anyway. Yeah, I don't think I've actually ever played more than about 20 minutes of a Mega Man game. I was just thinking as I was writing this.
I've never completed one, but I've played them.
I don't think I've ever made it to a single boss.
I have kind of don't tell the internet police about this, especially since I'm a qualified judge. I might lose my license. But I have kind of emulator syndrome with Mega Man, where like I play it a bit on an emulator and then stop.
Right.
Like you know when you you know when you go on the emulator download website, right? And you download all the games, and you have legal copies of them stacked up in your wardrobe.
Yeah, obviously.
Just hundreds and hundreds of SNES cartridges.
Yep. Understandable.
I own them all. Obviously, I've never
mean,
touched them, but I just
That's your family
can't
fortune.
play them.
Family fortune, right?
That's
there.
exactly. Some people invest it in stocks. I invest it in copies of Earthbound. I own all of them.
You go out and bury them in the desert next to your copies of E.T.
No, I dug them all up. Those are. They're all mine.
You went
now.
back to get them, and they're all gone.
The Earth had reclaimed them. But yeah. I've played a bit of Mega Man, and then just been like, fuck it. Sorry, Mega fans.
Yeah. I never understood why they were so good.
But then again, from what I understand, I mean, they're pretty fun. They've got nice music, nice graphics. I think Mega Man X is pretty sound. I played a fair amount of that one. Never completed it, but anyway,
Oh, I played
from what I understand,
played Shovel Knight though, and that's like kind of like
basically Mega Man.
It's basically Mega Man, but it's Shovel Knight
With
instead.
Yeah. From what I understand of this quiz, if we actually were very good and knew a lot about the game, the quiz we would be able to actually answer the questions.
This is true, although maybe not,
Should-
because there are a lot of. The quiz is going to be guess the fake Robot Master, and there are an awful lot
Okay.
of them, and they all have batshit names. So, depending on how well you remember, as well as having played them, so I don't know. There's quite a lot. So, hopefully, even people with a passing knowledge might struggle.
Well, I messed up
Excellent.
on
So
that.
I have not even a passing knowledge.
I think it's probably about a level playing field still though.
Well, if you remember last time, I didn't win on the Valkyria Chronicles quiz, and I had played that game. So
Well, there we go. Oh, and to add some extra jeopardy into our quiz taking, the loser has to do the next quiz. I'm going to keep a running
shit.
order of points winnings. Yeah, points winnings.
Points won.
I'm going to do some sort of league table with us, so we can see who's good at quizzes. I nailed that
Right.
pitch, didn't I?
there we go.
Right, so I've got 5 questions. So they're the Robot Masters from Mega Man 1 to 5, and so question 1's going to have about Mega Man 1, 2, Mega Man 2, etc. Guess the fake one. So here we are. For Mega Man 1, is there a Cut Man, a Guts Man, or a Fluffy Man?
I know Cutman is real. I'm
Uh,
pretty sure.
I say Fluffy Man is the fake.
I would say Fluffy Man is the fake.
We're both correct.
Right.
I had actually heard of Guts Man.
Yeah. You see, a lot of my knowledge of this will not come from actually having played the game, but rather from having seen multiple speedruns on like SDGQ. So
Fair enough. Well, let's see how you do from going forward then. So guess the fake
Probably
one
badly.
from Mega Man 2. Is there a Bubble Man, a Falling Man, or a Flash Man?
This one I do not know.
I'm unsure, but I think
Ooh.
I'm gonna say
So that's
so.
Bubble Man,
Flash,
Falling
and
Man,
Falling.
and Falling. Yeah.
Falling seems to be the odd one out.
Yeah,
Because it's a verb. Unless flash is a verb, like he's a flasher.
Maybe just flashes, like
Flash. Yeah, I
he
guess.
doesn't have to just streak.
or the
Massive
designers
trench
are
coat.
big fans of the Flashman series.
Yeah, he's
he makes a guest appearance.
he's a. You go from that to fighting like a kind of shitty, cowardly army officer. Yeah. I'm gonna say Falling Man.
I'm gonna go with Flashman Man.
Gav takes the point. Falling Man is
Hey.
the fake.
Hey,
So
he's the man that falls is not real.
no, he's not. There's a Bubble Man and a Flash Man though. So here we are. Mega Man 3. Guess the fake one. Is there a hard man, a top man, or a bottom man?
Well, I mean, Top Man is a chain of shops.
I'm gonna say Hard Man is the fake.
Hard Man. I guess if there was a bottom and a top man, it would make sense for them to go together, and there's got to be one or the other.
Feels weird if
So
to have one without the other.
I would say the hard man as well. I would say that there is no Vinnie Jones in this.
You are both wrong. It is bottom man. Top
Fucking
and
hell.
hard are both real.
So there's no opposite to top man.
No, there
Goddamn.
isn't. Oh, that one made me laugh when I was writing it.
Not Top Shop.
Guess the fake
Matalan man.
yeah. Yeah. TK Maxx man. Guess the fake one. Mega Man 4. Pharaoh Man, Nail Man, or Skull Man?
Alright, okay, so I'm gonna say Pharaoh man.
I want to
Come
agree.
on.
It just seems weird.
Egyptians.
Yeah.
You're wrong. Pharaoh Man is a real thing.
Fuck.
I mean,
Nail
yeah.
Man
Every
is
time
fake.
I've been like, that doesn't fit.
Ah,
And
it's
then
like it
does.
doesn't sound. It doesn't sound right, but the fact that it doesn't sound right
Yeah.
makes it sound.
Ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, so maybe I'm
Like
gonna
he's
find the
tricking
one
us.
that sounds the least like it should be, and then pick a different one.
Yeah, there's a Pharaoh Man. It's just randomly. Yeah. Yeah, no. Nail Man was the fake in that one.
You got all the elements. You have top man, cut man, all the fundamental building blocks of the universe. Top, cut, guts, bubble, and pharaoh.
Yeah.
Up,
And
down.
Skull.
Strange charm.
Hard as
top,
well.
bottom.
Hard Man.
All the quarks are here.
All the quirks.
Right, final question. At the moment, Gav is in the lead. You both got 2 wrong and shared the point for the first one, so 5th one. For Mega Man 5. Is it
5.
Is it Spaceman, Gravity Man, or Starman?
I want to say Spaceman is wrong.
I'm gonna say Starman is wrong.
It is Spaceman. So we have a draw.
Fuck. Yes. No.
So I'm gonna have to just pull up.
I keep thinking that you've put one in that's like a fake one, but you've named it after something. So when you said Top Man, I thought maybe you put it in because of Top Man. And I thought that Starman was in there, and maybe Nevi's been blasting some Elton John? No, David Bowie. Sorry. What was the fuck? Rocket Man is Elton John. Starman is David Bowie.
Yeah. Yeah, there's also...
So what happens with the draw?
1 second, I'm about to... okay. So I'm going to pull some from different places. Yeah, so, here we go.
Emergency question.
Emergency question. Right. This is from across the Mega Man library. So,
Oh shit.
is there a Sheep Man, a Squirrel Man, or a Hornet Man?
So sheep, squirrel, or hornet.
I'm gonna say sheep's fake.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm pretty sure there is a Hornet Man.
It's gonna keep being a draw one way or another, Neddy. You're gonna have to come up with another emergency
sheep is
question.
real. Sheep is real. Squirrel was the fake. God damn it.
Fuck.
Okay, right. Okay.
Emergency question 2 for Nebby. Our incompetence at the quiz has turned this into a quiz for the quizmaster.
Who will quiz the quizmaster?
She's gonna tell us that we both lose in a minute, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, fuck off. Right,
you
okay.
both lose 2 quizzes next week.
I have to check to see if it's not a real thing. The thing I've thought of.
Just in
It
case, like,
happened
you come up
last
with something
time.
stupid.
Yeah. Okay, so Fingerman, Plugman, Searchman.
I mean, search man sounds so dumb.
It does sound so dumb, but that makes me really not want to
We
pick
don't
it.
want to pick it. Yeah. So
gonna
there's
say-
Fingerman and what's the other one?
Plugman,
Plug,
was it?
Yeah. Plug, finger, search.
Mm,
Or finger plug search.
I'm gonna risk it all. I'm gonna say that Plugman is fake.
You can't pick the same one this time because
What?
I'm
Oh,
not doing
shit.
another one.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna go with Fingerman is fake.
George is correct. Fingerman,
No.
fake. Plugman, and
No.
Searchman are both real things.
No!
Ah.
I knew fingers sounded a bit daft, but then I was like,
Yeah, that was the thing. I was like, this sounds really daft, which makes me think that it's real.
Plugman. Oh dear.
Plugman.
And plug is almost in keeping with the. Much as I was like, well, I wasn't sure because plug's almost in keeping with the whole robot aspect.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Oh well, rest in peace. I've lost.
You have indeed.
I accept my loss.
You have to quiz us next time, Gavin.
I will. You're gonna get incredibly quizzed, and I will remember to come up with emergency questions.
Yeah,
just in
I should have
case.
had a tiebreaker.
Get some spares.
Yeah, fortunately there is just a nice long list of all the names from all the robot masters. There's some mad ones. I still can't believe that Hardman is a thing. Still. Yeah.
He is the most solid of all possible men.
I love how Pharaoh Man's in Mega Man 4 where there's nothing else. Like the other ones in Mega Man 4 are Bright Man, Toad Man, Drill Man, Ring Man, Dust Man, Dive Man, and Skull
Dust
Man.
Man.
And they're just Pharaoh Man.
Got the guy
He's
that-
just a Pharaoh.
You got Tutankhamun. You got the guy that picks up your bins. You got
Yeah. Oh dear.
you got Danny Dyer's hardest man. You got
I'm Danny
good
Dyer,
ones.
and today I'm taking a look at some of Britain's fallingest men.
Fallest man.
Yeah, there's Pump Man, Commando Man, which like he's going commando, that guy. Jewel Man, like what does he attack with?
Jules
It seems incredibly inefficient.
pelts you
Throws
with rings and necklaces.
Yeah, Clown Man,
Clown man. Nice.
Shade Man. He's throwing shade.
Nice.
Tomahawk Man. And Centaur Man. Centaur Man.
I mean,
What is
centaurs
he?
are
A
part
centaur
man.
or a man? Yeah,
But like,
make
is
your mind up.
he more of a man than a centaur? So he's like what's the bit of man he gains?
He's just a man on both ends. So he's like just a horse in the middle.
Like so he's got the torso at where the horse's head is, and then the back of the horse torso is just a man again.
Yeah. Oh dear.
I'm Ross Kemp, and this is Britain's centaurist men.
Yeah, so there we are. That's the quiz. Don't forget to bring a quiz next time, Gavin.
I will not forget. Believe me.
Good.
I will claim my vengeance.
Right, I think that about wraps up this episode. Thank you.
We've had a good chat today.
I have. I'm still laughing about hard top and bottom, man. It's just making me laugh. Oh dear.
You got all the good ones.
Oh, I did. Had some fun making those earlier. Yeah. Thank you for listening to episode number 7 of the Bits and Pieces podcast. If you found us without the website attached, you can find us at bitsandpieces.games, or follow us on Twitter at Bits Plus Pieces, or Instagram and Facebook at those Bits and Pieces. And you can follow me personally, Nevada Drew, at Nevada Drew. So, what about you guys?
I am at _scruffy looking on Twitter.
And I am at GavBits on Twitter.
Super.
Follow me.
Don't forget to like us on all the things. Give us a nice review on whatever it is you've listened to it on. It makes numbers go up and things. Also, George
Helps
recently
with
did
visibility if people were searching for a nice podcast to listen to.
Exactly.
About games.
Exactly. Would be lovely. Or just tell someone else about it. That's also nice. George also did a cool review of London Board Game Cafe. So if you're in London, look for a good one. He's done a write-up of that. Done 2 now. How many more are there in London, actually?
There is a third one, though it's in Bromley, so I'm kind of... don't know if I don't necessarily count that as London. But it is accessible from London. But
there you go. Have to send you across the country now.
Yeah, maybe at some point I'll go to Oxford and check out. I believe it's the Thirsty Meeple.
Yeah.
Oxford isn't a million miles away.
No, not too bad, is it? From London.
Exciting stuff.
There you go. So there's cool things. Yeah, check out the site for other fun stuff, and we will catch you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.